Everyone has found the last 18 months incredibly challenging. But one particular group who I think have had it particularly tough are final year university students. It's meant to be one of the best times of your life with your future ahead of you and so many opportunities at your door. But for obvious reasons, it's not like that at all for the young men and women who are graduating in 2021. We were lucky enough to meet one of them earlier on in May. We interviewed a great young woman called Megan Kelsall. Megan is at Bristol University in her final year studying social policy, and we interviewed her to ask her some questions and get some real insight into what it's like to be graduating in 2021.
What are the three main things that you're worried about in terms of starting your first job in 2021?
I think that starting a job is scary enough as it is. And for me, it definitely seems like more of a jump after being inside for the last year. So that would definitely be the main one. I think the uncertainty around it. And I worry that as well, because of COVID, networking is limited, which may make it more difficult to fully emerge in the work environment. And as well with COVID, the support provided. So I think transitioning from university to work is quite big, and it feels big and scary. So having the reassurance there and the support there is unknown, but something that would definitely be needed.
Yeah, no, definitely. I hadn't even thought about the fact that I thought about obviously it being hard remotely working from home in your job, but actually what you just pointed out about having been at home for the last year and going from that to work is probably an even harder transition than had you been at university under normal circumstances.
I think people are having to transition from being at home to then going out and getting on with normal life. And I think that combined with the jump to work as well, it seems a lot, so something that's daunting, but definitely, a challenge that we're all going to have to overcome.
How do you feel the COVID pandemic has affected your experience as someone starting their career this year?
So I planned to undertake a summer placement last year, but that was cancelled because of COVID. And I think a lot of people would say that that's happened to them as well. And also with the fact that so many employers are unable to take on new people, there is a lot of demand for jobs and not many jobs out there, especially kind of career ones that people had planned. So I think now with my kind of lack of experience and having to jump straight from university to employment, it seems quite uncertain, and it seems as though I'm having to think more in the short term rather than long-term career goals.
Are you finding have you found it really competitive then in terms of applying?
I know that. I think honestly, I gave up applying for all the usual grad schemes that the universities push because they're so competitive, and you spend hours applying. I think the workload, it's so much having to do university as it is, and applying for jobs is a very time-consuming process to then be rejected by so many, and everyone's being rejected by everywhere, so it's definitely kind of I think it's just another difficult thing to deal with on top of everything else.
How prepared do you feel to start your first job once you graduate?
Less prepared with COVID, just with the networking thing and the fact that COVID has stopped career events, work experience, other opportunities that would naturally better prepare me and other students for work. And because of that, I think the transition from university to work seems big and something that is quite unknown and just involves jumping in and taking things one step at a time, which is good because it will be, obviously a worthwhile transition, but definitely something that I do feel unprepared for.
Yeah, Again, that was something I hadn't considered, was all the work experience that you had done, or placements and things that you would have done to prepare yourself to make that transition. Just hasn't happened, which is a real shame. How do you feel about working remotely?
I've heard lots of people don't mind not having to commute, but I think with students going, or at first starting a job, you want to get to know your team, you want to like put faces to people's names rather than just be emailing them, and then you can build real relationships and feel more comfortable and feel as though you have more of a purpose in the job and in the company. So I think it is, definitely important to have those face-to-face interactions as a new employee.
How about the actual like your home, because obviously you've been doing your uni work from home, how has that been in terms of the setup at home for like your average person graduating? Obviously they don't probably have an office and everything. Has that been a challenge?
I think my house is quite quiet. I think we're all just kind of getting on with it. So for me, it hasn't been an issue. And I'm not one that can work in the libraries. I find them so distracting. I end up like people watching the whole time. So it's been fine. I think there's no more distractions than working in university. I think it obviously depends if people have a nice environment at home that they can work in. But for me, it's not been an issue.
That's good. But obviously just not when you start a first job, it's like the going to the office and the orientation and all that kind of thing. Apart from the job itself, what would attract you to applying for a job at a specific organisation?
The support that they advertise and offer for new employees. So it's not just a super competitive environment that you've got to work really hard in and try to please everyone. I think like a more friendly, comfortable environment is important, especially for a new employee, and the value that the company puts on employees and feeling as though I have a purpose and I'm doing something, contributing something to the company as a whole. And also that would keep me kind of motivated and satisfied. So I think, and also opportunities to grow within the role in the company.
How do you see it? So at the moment, the ones that you've applied for, how are they advertising? Are they talking about kind of, quite traditional, competitive environment and,
it's very brief, and it's usually just a statement of competitive salary, competitive roles, you can work your way up, but then that's it. I mean, there's no other thing, so it's just take of that what you will. But I think in terms of offering support, it's quite rare to see that. I think there's only been one or two that have kind of focused on the support that they provide and like making a comfortable environment. The rest of it's just been like more focusing on making it sound good and making it sound smart and something that is like will look really good on the CV.
And that's been the case for such a long time, and you want to see something a bit different now, especially you see all the stuff in the paper about the junior like bankers and stuff, so like Goldman Sachs working like 75-hour weeks, and it's like,
that's why I think it's silly that the universities as well, they're so limited with what, or so kind of restricted with what they advertise, the types of jobs. It's always the same traditional, really competitive kind of government, banking, all that stuff. And like considering 1-2% of students will get them, there's, I think it seems like there's less support there for the fact that we have to kind of search for jobs that are more attainable.
How have your friends found it? Have your kind of housemates and stuff, they found jobs, or are they finding it quite tough as well?
Tough. I think lots of people are doing a panic masters.
Oh gosh, not the reason you want to do a master's, is it?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think loads of rejections as per lots of people, I think, especially my friends that have got masters behind them, that they're not even getting graduate jobs. Like, it's just anything that they can get, you know, regardless of their qualifications and skills. So it's definitely difficult to get into a good or something that you're after.
Yeah, I think probably more needs to be done. Like, I don't know about, like, it's probably better now than when I was at university, but like we were literally given no support really at all. Like, and I studied music, so they were like, you will either be good enough to become a professional musician, and if you're not good enough, then you'll probably be a teacher. And I was like, I don't really want to do either of those things. So, and that was, they literally told me that my first lecture, year one. I was like, oh, okay, well, I just might as well enjoy myself for the next 3 years.
Nice limited prospects.
I'm not going to get a job out of this degree. So,
they do, like, I had a careers meeting, which is what they advertise, and it was fine. I think I basically said to the woman that ran the meeting about how the only kind of main jobs that are advertised are the ones that are just ridiculously competitive and borderline not even worth applying for. And she said about writing speculative applications, so just emailing companies regardless of whether they're advertising or not, which was helpful, obviously, but I think it's still, again, a very time-consuming process, and there's lots of advice there in terms of how to apply and what kind of jobs to go for, but not so much like where to apply that will be good for us, as opposed to like what will be good on the CV.
Yeah, I think you're rarely also given real information about what jobs actually entail as well. They talk about all the other stuff. Like, I'm in one of the in-placement modules, I talk about kind of purpose and culture is seen as, like, when people like look at kind of the reasons they join organizations, it's like, what's the pay, what's the holiday, what's the office like, all those stuff, and those will be the reasons that people join organizations. The reason they leave organizations are completely different factors. So they are the purpose of the organization and the like the hierarchy structure and how much value people feel, how much they feel they're contributing, all those kind of things, and that stuff's just not explored enough, I think.
I agree. I think that as well, with applying for jobs, all of the adverts say pretty much the same thing regardless of what the job is, and they are vague, and they don't, I think no one knows what the job is going to be like until you do it. And I think it's okay for people that are like well into their careers because they know what to expect from certain jobs, having had the experience. But for myself and other students and people that haven't started work yet, we don't know what jobs entail. We don't know like what we're actually going to be doing, as opposed to like what we could be doing 1% of the time that they advertise, you know.
So thank you so much to Megan. We really appreciate her time. She was in the midst of, I think, finishing her dissertation whilst we interviewed her. So really, really appreciated her answering our questions. I think you'll all agree she had some great points to make. I had not considered the fact that not only are they graduating after a pandemic, they're graduating after working from home over the last 18 months, having all their work placements cancelled. So much more competition this year as well because of the graduate schemes that didn't go ahead last year, and also the lack of support for people transitioning remotely into their first job. We were really interested to hear what she had to say because of our in-placement programme. It's a programme which helps new starters into organisations really understand their purpose, the culture of the business, building relationships, understanding what impact they can make, and the expectations that are set upon them. And as Megan highlighted, that kind of support is something that university students who are graduating, but also kind of anyone from a junior perspective going into a new organisation, I think could really benefit from. So if you're interested in finding out a bit more about our in-placement programme, please do give us a call or send us an email. All the details are on the screen. And yeah, if you've got any questions, please do get in touch. Thanks everyone.